my God!
Let's do it!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weirdscience Comic Boom Indie Comics Podcast. I am here, as always, with my man. And my man who I have actually ditched a bit the last couple of weeks, which I apologize to him and everybody else. Rocky, what is up?
Oh man, it's good. It's good to be back reviewing some indie here, and we're reviewing some comic books that we're familiar with. And it's all the snow's melted away here in
That's good. The last
Canada.
time you said it was getting very much wintry. It melted away at least. Is that good or bad?
Well, it's going to start to snow. I think tomorrow morning or early this morning, tomorrow morning. So it's Canada. We always get snow.
You're used to it.
Yeah, we're used to it.
You're not wimps. I remember a friend of mine who was from North Carolina. He ended up moving. I live outside the Philadelphia area, and we get our share of snow. Not quite what you get. But they moved, and I remember it snowed. I'm telling you, it might have been 1/4 of an inch. I mean, if that. It was like a dusting. And this kid's like, do we really have school today? And I said, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, we have school. And he's like, there was one day, and he's only one time. He's like, one time it snowed at my house where I live, and we didn't have school for a week. And he said it wasn't even above the curb. It's so weird. Like the idea of, I know it's being used to it or whatnot, but at points it's not much. I mean, it's kind of silly, but yeah, we haven't had much of any even cold yet. It hasn't really dipped below 50 during the regular days, but we still end up having to have our oil heater going. It stinks like oil down here as I speak, and we need another shipment of oil, and oil prices are through the roof. So I'm a miserable man right now.
I know you're miserable. I know you had some computer problems, but if you're going to have computer problems, thank God you had it on near Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
That was
Hopefully,
the one thing.
Hopefully you got a deal, you know?
I did. Actually, the computer that I had that I got 7 days ago that ended up breaking, I had to go and replace that. And that I got because my other one, that it was only like 4 months old. So I took it. I did actually get something. It still was a little more. I still was pissed because I returned this one. I got that as credit and did have to pay like an extra $200, I think it was. But I got something that normally I would have had to have paid like $900 more, though. It's a computer that the only way I can explain it is when I turn it on, it looks like I got a disco going down in here, maybe a rave. There are lights inside the computer that are now flashing all sorts of colors. And the thing that makes it so out the top, they go up and on the roof, it's dancing around like sugar plums in my dreams. It's driving me nuts. It's driving me insane. And I can't stop it because where this light comes out is actually where you have the fan and the exhaust type deal. If I cover that up, it's going to overheat. It's driving me insane. I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I didn't need to pay for a disco, but I did say I ended up last week. I had problems. I've been having some problems all over the place, but we're back. We have some books here and some good ones and some ones that we have talked about. These are going to be continuations and in a weird way, all image this week. We have Vanish, Creepshow, and Hitomi, and we're going to start with Vanish. And as we get into this, it's one of those things I couldn't remember if I read issue 2. It's been a little bit, and a lot of Donny Cates' stuff has been delayed, if not just straight up, not canceled, but continued by other people. I'm glad to see that this is still Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman doing this. And hopefully, Donny Cates, with whatever is going on with him, he can end up, getting back in the saddle and doing some stuff because he is a really good writer, though he tends to fight with people online. I think that might be part of the problem. But Vanish number 3, written by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Ryan Stegman on art, J.P. Mayer on inks, colors by Sonia Obach, and John J. Hill on letters and design. And we go into this. Did you have any sort of problem that I did? Because I swear I started reading it. I thought, what the heck happened in issue 2? Like, and then I remembered, and then I was good. But in this issue, it's pretty much a big fight. I mean, it's a big fight with Wormhole and Silkworm, as they go by hero names on Earth right now, but are part of the Hollow, the bad guys that you ended up having Oliver, our main character, he's hunting down and taking their powers in a way. We were right in the first issue because I'm not sure we talked about the second issue. Did we? I can't remember if we did on the podcast.
I can't. I think we did. I think we did.
Okay.
I'll have to
I
look.
I just remember at one point, I think you said after the first issue, like, I think that this Oliver is going to start grabbing everybody's powers, and he's really going to look like the bad guy before too long. And yeah, we're already there. We're already, and you can't really trust him as much anymore to do the right thing because he seems to be a little bit addicted to the old magic as he was to the opioids
well,
when he was on
he
Earth,
seems like
right?
he actually seems like the very much the bad guy. He seems like the
Oh yeah.
a-hole in this entire story. It's
Yep.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
this really was a total flipping of the, this guy's supposed to be, Harry Potter meets whatever, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he's supposed to be the chosen one, the golden child, the one that's going to destroy a great evil, and he supposedly did that by killing this Baron Vanish character years ago. But he did so by breaking the rules of the kingdom that they were in. And apparently now the Hollow, all the bad guys, they seem to be reformed and they seem to be genuine superheroes. They're kind of jerks a little bit, but they still don't. They don't even want to kill
Yeah.
him. I mean,
No.
this is incredible. Here we got characters here. We got Wormhole and Silkworm that he's fighting, and they're prepared not even to kill him. They want to reason with him, tell him that
Yeah.
they've reformed. But no, he's all for.
Oh,
He's
he's
a
definite
badass.
destruction, right? And it's funny. First off, from what I learned from Star Wars, which I learned a lot, anybody who's supposed to be the chosen one is going to be bad. Just don't even go with that.
That's
Don't
right.
ever go that route, right? So
Yeah.
when you get into this, I do like that play. First off, we were in the first issue. It kind of made us laugh and wonder, why is the book named after the main villain who's actually dead? It was very odd. And then we're going through this, and yeah, you end up getting this Oliver who, like you said, it's almost the idea of these characters. You said they don't seem to be fully on the up and up, but at points, even that from the first one, you got the idea maybe we're going to play the boys type deal. Maybe we're going to play the idea where, oh my God, they're pretending, but they don't seem as bad as I thought. They do actually seem like they're trying to do some good, and maybe they have reformed a bit, but Oliver wants no parts of it. And I think that's obviously the big rub of it all is the idea, can bad guys be reformed? Can they end up turning a new leaf? And if they do, does that chosen one kid whose parents were should they try to say, okay, I forgive you and let's work this out? Because there's no way Oliver's doing that. And he gets to be the point where he's so over the top. And I think this is the play that's going on, that you really are to not that you don't like him, but you don't trust him. You're waiting for that point to be like, okay, I get it now, but he's so over the top. He's the one that really, really curses, F-bombs everywhere. He's it is kind of odd, this whole book.
Well, and he's
as we
hammered
get
out of
to
his
this
mind.
point.
He's hammered out of his
Yeah.
mind. He's drunk and he can't use the magic, yet he's trying to use the magic. He seems to be absolutely drunk with power. It's almost like he's becoming addicted, and he's got that addicted
Yeah,
mentality.
that's the
And
real problem.
he's drawn toward the magic, and that is going to cause a problem because if he's the chosen one, I don't think the prophecy maybe anticipated his alcoholism.
No, or his idea that the magic is his meth now.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
the way that it plays out, it's really done well. If I'm going to be, say I'm Oliver and I get the magic, I get the, I defeat the evil guy, get the magic, then I'm like, all right, I can now move on. This is cool. Oliver's like, oh man, that's a great hit. And everything really feels like it's a drug. It's his heroin, and he needs it now, not because these guys and gals are bad at one point. It's that he needs his next fix. When is that going to stop? And he even says in this, like, oh my God, I ended up going after these twins, Wormhole and Silkworm. Maybe I should have went after the other, lesser ones first, but he already feels like he's, hey, I need a bigger score. I need a bigger hit because now I'm getting a tolerance and these little ones won't do. By the end of this issue, he gets his chance. He'll get his chance. He's got a big, big deal. But even then, it's not even the way he plays it out that these people are now just sources of drugs almost to him because of this magic. Now on the side, he's not going to listen to them. But I don't know. At this point, 3 issues in, I kind of I believe somewhat the bad guys when they're saying, listen, we have to thank you. We were being controlled by Vanish. We didn't know what was going on. And once you killed him, then we realized we came here and we made ourselves good guys because we realized we messed up. Thank you. And he's like, I don't want to hear it. Like he really gets mad at that. But I kind of believe that they're saying that almost on the up and up. The way that I don't go is they're twins. When Wormhole seems to get killed and Silkworm's just like, oh man, we'll figure this out. I'm like, there's no way that you can trust him now. You killed his twin sister. But and it kind of makes it feel like, okay, these guys, they'll throw anybody under the bus or whatnot. But still, Oliver at points is like he's enjoying this as he's covered in blood. He's not I'm not going to say he's not a great lead character, but I'm saying he's not a great lead character. I mean, he is a piece of crap and he has not changed. He's getting worse. And yeah, it ends up by the end. This is a lot of a fight, but that little angle, it is very interesting when you see that because you don't see that often, right?
No, you don't. You don't. And what's even more interesting about it is his fall from grace. He's falling deeper and deeper into a chasm of darkness psychologically, and he's becoming, I think, everyone's own worst enemy here. And even his wife doesn't seem to truly appreciate how far he's fallen, because Eleanor, his wife, who he's having a falling out with, they've she sees on the news that he's battling Wormhole and Silkworm, and it's pretty serious stuff here. And I want to give a shout out to Donny Cates. Donny Cates had some pretty cool ideas here, because the Wormhole is sort of like a glorified Flash. Superpowers. Her superpowers is like she's really, really fast, and as she says, she can blink at Mach 4, and she's really, really powerful, difficult to defeat. And then Silkworm, he controls nanoscopic razor wire with his mind, so at one point. I mean, Oliver is so twisted and addicted to the magic, like you said, almost like meth, that the razor wire, the microscopic razor wire that Silkworm uses, ties Oliver's arm to a post. And he's so, you hear about people that are whacked out on cocaine, how they gain massive strength.
They're like PCP, it reminds me of too, yeah.
Yeah, he rips off his own hand with Oliver rips off his own hand with the razor wire just to start fighting again. I mean, this is absolutely next level stuff of insanity here. So I'm almost thinking from a plot perspective that, is he possessed? Is something else going on here? Because this almost seems like a little bit over the top. And you have to wonder, remember in the first issue that Oliver broke the rule because he wasn't supposed to bring a weapon, anything from the normal world into the world of magic. And he brought a gun, and it was a gun he used to kill Baron Vanish. And I think the violation of that, one of those cardinal rules, I think that's maybe is what threw a wrench into things.
It might.
And
Donny Cates might be just playing the idea that, I mean, legitimately, and you brought that up, the idea that this was a guy that really following rules or not following rules, he was a bad guy. He went and got a gun, brought it back into the magic world to kill Vanish, who said, and it was kind of a cool twist, the idea, nothing in this world can kill me. So he ends up killing him with a gun, a regular gun. Boom, it does it. Well, that is a guy who broke the rules, who then become, oh, it's the chosen one. He's going to do that. Now we saw even before, the hollow that he realized, the hollow were the Justice League of this deal. He ended up being a drunk, addicted to drugs. Like maybe it's just the play. And I think there is something like you said to it. But I think there also just might be the play of what if the chosen one's a real piece of crap and just got lucky and killed the bad guy. It'd be like Harry Potter, but instead he's a real piece of shit who, you're just lucky Harry Potter's a great kid. Maybe if he wasn't, what would happen? And I think that's kind of interesting when we're waiting for, as I said, the boys, where, oh my God, this Justice League, they're awful. And actually the bad guy is this guy who's supposed to have saved everyone, and he's just a piece of shit. Yeah. And I wonder, and I did, like you said, his wife, Ellen, I thought that she was going to see this and like, oh, here we go, and try to go there and help or do this. But she even sees like, oh shit, here we go again, and gets on the phone and starts to, try to at least set something up, it seems, to help him out or figure this out when she does end up calling this guy. And when he gets on, we end up seeing, and it is Deacon, goes by Dustin, and he ends up getting that. But again, a guy who doesn't seem like the greatest of guys. So by the end, you end up having this guy Deacon. You end up having, Oliver's wife get a hold of him, and seems like she might be. I don't know. She seems more annoyed actually, and leaves a message. He gets that at the end. He runs in and goes into his, room, and there's Halcyon there. But even before that, you do see Oliver, and I said earlier where he's looking for these big hits and big scores like it's drugs. Well, when he goes and uses his powers to kind of fall, make a hole and fall in when the police come and get him, because he does look like the bad guy. He's confronted with this guy Battery, this just huge monstrosity of a guy. But I did like that. It's changing up. And I like the character designs for all the things that you end up having Ryan Stegman go. But by the end, again, I don't know who I'm rooting for here because of how bad Oliver seems to be and is becoming. He's getting worse and worse. So by the end, I think that's kind of the cool twist of it.
Yeah, no, and that's why this story works so far. It's because we're not really sure if he is the good guy or the bad guy or exactly what's going on. It does feel like there's other forces at play here.
Yeah.
But what I also like about it is I'm wondering if maybe Donny Cates. I've not read any interview with him on this matter, but I'm wondering if is he, like, I'm almost wondering, does this have something to do with? Does he have something to say about drug addiction?
Maybe.
About
I mean, that's what it
alcoholism,
seems like it.
because one of the ways to look at this, I'm thinking, is, everyone talks about the chosen one and the prophecy, but one of the questions to ask is, okay, well, what happens after you've killed the bad guy? What
Yeah.
happens once you've fulfilled the prophecy? Well, he's already fulfilled it, arguably. So he's already fulfilled the prophecy. Maybe that is to say, maybe he's already killed a bad guy. Maybe he's already fulfilled the prophecy. He just did it sooner than Master Orin thought he would, and now he's
Yeah.
grown up to be his own worst enemy. So maybe he has already saved the world, but he hasn't realized it. And now, after saving the world, he becomes he becomes a new villain for the world that he originally helped save. So maybe that's the story here. But
And again, you start to even wonder, because the book is called Vanish, is it something like he's going to take up that mantle? Or maybe there's some sort of way, like a crazy way, like almost like a Harry Potter, where a bit of Vanish ended up kind of going. I don't know. It's funny because when you say that, like the Joshua Williamson book, Birthright, had that same idea. And there's a lot of books that do that, like, hey, what happens after the hero slays the dragon and gets the deal? And a lot of times they get very bored. There's nothing to do. They kind of go, and that is kind of a cool play. Yeah. What happens when, and especially the idea, what happens when you're the chosen one and you fulfill that prophecy when you're still a little kid? And then you go off, and maybe that's what we're seeing, that, sometimes maybe, it wasn't the greatest thing to fulfill that prophecy, even though he still wants revenge for what happened with his, his mom and dad, his whole, and they even play it in this, but that sigil that keeps burning, we might find out a lot more about a lot of the things in the background, and maybe find out a lot more things that he thinks were on the up and up were sus, and vice versa, because it does seem at points that these characters, while they are still kind of bad, but they were being good guys and gals. He's the one who's poking at them. And you said they tried, we don't want to kill you. Do you know why? Like, they almost play out. And I think it is actually Wormhole who might be saying it, but ends up one of them say, listen, we knew you were alive this whole time. And here, we didn't go after you. We made the road. Like, we're letting you live. We didn't come and attack you or anything. So why are you coming at us now that you just realized that we're there? And I think that that's a pretty cool twist of it.
yeah, no, it is. And it's funny. I can't help but at the end there's a tease for issue 4, and it's just an image of this sort of like this person wearing almost like a horned helmet of some sort of animal on his head, and with women chained up behind him on their hands and knees, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that is that actually Oliver. Maybe Oliver really does go full
It
evil.
might be. And
I don't know, but
the weird play is he definitely has, whoever it is, he's definitely made that helmet slash, cape thing there. And it really does look like what Wormhole is, or actually Silkworm is turning into by the end
Yeah.
of their confrontation. You even have it where he's like, look at you. You're more monster than human. You can't even maintain your form. And it looks like that might be him. Like, he ended up skidding him afterwards. So I'm worried about what the hell's happening at the next, because, yeah, it looks straight up. It looks like like a Conan the Barbarian deal, but even then on the ground next to him, it even looks like a little bit like Oliver as well. It's a very odd, it's a cool kind of like, hey, this might be deal. So issue 4, I'm looking forward to it, and see how this, progresses. We were talking before we even started the idea that the excitement has gone down a little. I thought the first issue was great. I thought it was really, really good. I was all fun. I still like it. I need that next step to be like, oh man, this has got me again. From that point on here, playing the idea that our main character is kind of a piece of shit, it does kind of pull it back a little and not as excited, but I want to see where it goes. And I'm sure that we'll get more, peaks and valleys as we go.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you give it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I'm
Yeah,
still pretty high with it. I mean, I still like it. The art's great. So 8.5 for
yeah,
me. What would you give it?
yeah. I would give it. I would go a little lower than that. I think
Right.
I'll maybe go an 8.
Okay.
But I will. This has, like I say, this is subverting my expectations in a good way so far, because it can go in so many different directions. And the first issue I thought just blew me away. There are so many little, like, so many
Yeah.
bits of information in that first issue, and there's so many other characters that we could still meet, because we met a lot of characters in that first issue
Yeah.
that were children, that were the younger students, and there's still more that we can meet as this story moves forward. And so it's funny, I've said before, I keep notes on first issues, because
hmm
writers have a tendency of cramming a lot of information in that first issue, and we're
And
starting,
then slowing down and yeah,
and then
I agree.
slowly,
Yeah.
mining those Easter eggs on those first issues. And so, but yeah, this was definitely a good one. This is definitely one I can see. I, I'm s- I'm enjoying Donny Cates more than I I sort of lost. I sort of
Yeah.
stopped reading his Marvel stuff, so I'm really glad I got something to read of his that's independent.
So funny. We're talking today about this, and I ended up where I was talking manga earlier with my man Luke Hollywood on our manga podcast, and in that I was kind of yelling about Donny Cates because it was very reminiscent of the Hulk book currently, which I'm not really down with, but this I really like, and I really like Donny Cates is one of my favorite writers. I just sometimes it's weird because he does so many books, and some that sometimes I do forget the idea that now I'm back. I actually do like this. And I think maybe the independent stuff is what I like a little more than the actual big two stuff from him because, he could do his own thing and he could play around. Like you said, he can do and subvert stuff and things like that. But we'll move to the next book, which again was a book that when we first started, it feels weird. I'll tell you right now, not be with, the whole thing with Halloween gone and done, then we get back to it does feel a little odd, like this should have been something that just came out around Halloween, which it doesn't have to, but it was funny just after in the United States here, we just get done Thanksgiving and then we go Creepshow, and I'm like, really feels like it's not fitting. And I wonder how the next issue, if it's around, Christmas, how that will feel and if they'll play with it. But you end up having Creepshow number 3, which has 2 stories. The first, L. Marlowe Francavilla writing with Francisco Francavilla on writing and art, Pepperso on letters. That's called Hair. And then the second one, The Bridge by Ariella Cristantina writing it, Jorge Corona on art, Jean-Francois Belleux on colors, and Pepperso on letters. And I said to you before we started, the idea where you have Creepshow, we talked and we actually laughed about it. Creepshow isn't one of those books that at the end it's an after school special and everybody learned their lesson. They shake hands and they go home. I mean, just that one story, it still sticks with me. The, take only one, the deal with the candy bars. And at the end, this poor little kid who kind of was just going around with the crowd, this little boy, he ends up getting disemboweled because at the end, you do bad, you get done bad. I mean, really, this is how it is, and it doesn't cut corners. I don't know if that can sustain everything the way this is going foot because it's really not even just downers by the end, but there are stories that just end that you're kind of confused, like, okay, like what really was going on there and how did that work out? And I do like the first issue, Hair, which we'll go into obviously. But the second one I thought was a little off, and it was hard even to really get involved in my mind. I don't know how you felt with it.
Yeah, no, I well, the one called Hair is actually put a shit-eating grin on my face because the guy who cuts my hair, he's a hell of a personality. I could talk for like an hour about him
Yeah.
because he's such a personality. Every time I go in there, he's really big on conspiracy, nonsense, and
Okay.
craziness, and it's just funny because in this first issue, this barber is actually holding a secret, and he's got this relationship with these obviously almost like raccoons and the animals in the forest,
Yeah.
and he goes and he's almost got like a double life, and he finds out all the secrets about the town and about he sort of like vets out. It's almost like he's the guy who's sort of like doing all these hunting things. He's looking for victims for the animals because they're in a small American town that's into hunting, and animals
Yeah.
don't like being hunted, and so he's setting up all these people to go into the forest and get eaten by these creatures of the forest, and so I mean I could joke. I'm going to tell you the next time I get my hair cut, and I don't have a lot of hair to
Yeah.
cut, so my visits are pretty short, so I got to talk fast when I'm there.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I got to tell I'm gonna bug my barber, and I'm gonna because I imagine him having the secret life that he could have here. But I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you want to. I mean the other ones were I could relate more to this barber one in a crazy way because I got a kick out of it. The other one, the second story about the girl was a little bit more. She was just kind of a narcissistic bitch, and I didn't really like it
Yeah,
too
I
much.
mean, that's really all it came down to. And I will tell you too, when you have Francisco Francavilla on art in a creep show, it's gonna 100% look like it should. You know what I mean? Like if I think of a creep show book, this is the art I think of. It looks really, really. When you get to the next day, I'm not saying that Jorge Corona does a bad job. It's just what the story is, but the art combined with a story where I really not only just didn't care about the characters, they kind of came in and out and whatnot. I got a little, not even connected, not even a bit confused of who was who, what they're doing. And at the end, like you said, they're just narcissistic jerks and they get theirs. And there you're like, okay, there you go. But this hair one, I'm with you. It actually did tickle my fancy a little. It just made me laugh because you're sitting there and hearing about these awful hunter deaths. And you do see that this barber at the beginning, he's feeding the raccoons and things, and that's what everybody's going to hunt. This is a place where they go and they do, and they get the pelts, and they're going to, all that sort of thing. And but the barber doesn't really react, and it's almost like that idea, like he has a straight razor, he has things, but he doesn't do it because he's going to leave it for the animals to take it to the streets for them. And even the little deal where he has names for him. This is funny because you have your barber. I have one of my best friends whose dad ended up feeding squirrels so much that they ended up having to stop him doing it because squirrels would gather on his damn porch in the middle of town and people would freak out because he would just feed them and he fed them by hand. And at one point he ended up getting this weird fungus on his arm from something, and it was disgusting. But it reminded me of him that because he's and he called him like the squirrely chucks or something weird and all this stuff. But when you end up having it, I do like the twist because I didn't really see it coming the way it did that way. But yeah, you end up where there's just this monstrosity of this raccoon slash horror show down below. The barber in the sewers type deal who is taking care of all these hunters because they're hunting his kids and all this because of the raccoons and stuff, and they're getting their heads ripped off. It's just horrific, but it does just end with, okay, there's another guy who gets killed because he's bragging. Oh man, that guy's a jerk. The idea that there's this one guy and they're like, listen, you shouldn't go hunting tonight. Everybody's dying. It's like, yep, looks like more skins for me. I'm like, oh, you are so dead. And you're so, but yeah, and he gets his head ripped off and eaten. And at the end, it's just like right back. And that's what I love about the creep show endings are a lot of times like this. It's nothing's changed. There's the barber who, again, he's feeding he's feeding raccoons here the grapes and things, and he's talking same thing he did at the beginning. Here's the guy yell, "Oh no, stop, stay back. Ah." And then he's just like, "Yep, here's another grape." Like it's just plain sailing
Yeah.
after that. And then you have, obviously the Creepshow ending there of like it looks like Big Fluff made a new friend. I'm like, okay, that one's pretty funny. I mean, it's funny in that wacky, weird way, but I did like it. I did like that story as just a yeah, that fits. That fits the whole Creepshow deal. And I'm not a big gun guy myself or a hunter, so I don't know, if there's oh, that's a little under, the deal story where they're trying. I just think it's fun that this guy ends up having his only friends are these raccoons that they're getting hunted. And now they're taking it back. So I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Uh,
It,
like
it
if it was just that, I'd be pretty happy with this issue.
Yeah, it's funny because when I read Creepshow, I'm so used to, maybe it's the age in which we live. I'm so used to watching streaming shows where
Yeah,
things end on a cliffhanger, and I'm thinking, well, how many more? I'm thinking, how many more episodes in this because it looks
yeah.
kind of good. And then I realize, oh my God, it's Creepshow. It's that's it. It's over. It's
Well,
it's I'm not accustomed to this because I'm used to decompressed stories. So I'm waiting for the next chapter. It's like, oh no, this is only ever one chapter in Creepshow. I don't think there's ever been more than 2 chapters to any Creepshow story that I'm aware
no,
of. So,
no.
and yet I kind of like that because it's the way it used to be when I was younger. We would get stories, just bullet points on stories, and we'd have to fill in the blanks at the end of it.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of like the central conceit of Creepshow, and it works for that, especially for hair. And the fact that I'm gonna bug my barber next time I get my hair cut is
that's
all
funny.
that's a bonus plan.
Yeah, and again, I love the stories. Like, here's the deal: at the end of this, in Hair, who's the bad guy? Is it the bad guy, the guy who's just letting this monstrosity eat these hunters, or
Yeah.
is it the hunters who are killing the animals that even seem to be, daughters, sons of this big deal? It's the gray area. That's what makes it the idea where if you're one sort of sensibility, you'll think one person's bad. If you're the other, or they're all bad, or no bad, whatever. That's what I don't think they get in the second story.
Yeah.
I think the second story's just played out. The bridge is just, hey, listen here, this, narcissistic, you said it, and she is a narcissistic bitch who just wants followers, is going to go, she's going to end up going in this, country that they're in. She's not going to listen to their rules, worry even about what they're saying. She's going to pretty much desecrate a temple. And then at the end, she ends up being taken over, getting killed, turned into things by the god that ends up, getting rid of her. And at the end, I'm like, yeah, she was at fault. She shouldn't. Even like the idea I said about the kid with this, just take one. Like in that, you end up at the end, you do have that question of, did you really have to kill that kid? Like he didn't want to do it, but then they kind of bullied him into it, but then he did it anyway. But then at the end, it was explained, well, he was the good kid who should have known all along. So there's always that twist, but there's always that gray area of, did they really need to? But this, you're like, yeah, she deserved to die. I mean, there's no doubt about it, what she's doing, because she's warned a bunch of times and she doesn't care. We don't really have a connection to her. Obviously, it's in and out with this, but even her friends, if they are, they hate her guts. They think she's a jerk. So at the end, I just thought, whatever. Like that's one of those. I'm like, I'm moving on. Maybe that's the play.
Yeah.
That the real play is the Creepshow is me because I don't care and actually was glad that she died and I just moved on. Unlike Hair, and like I said, not that the art's bad. I like the art as it is, but it just didn't feel
It's
like a
it,
horror art. It's you know what I mean.
Well, it's funny because the artist is Jose Corona, and he does the art on Batgirls, and I
Batgirls,
think
yeah,
it's very inappropriate art for the Batgirls because it's a
yeah.
bad combination of artist and writer on that title, and I don't
Hmm.
I just I mean artistically it doesn't fit for the Batgirls. So when I'm reading this and I see this blonde. I don't like Stephanie Brown, never have, is the spoiler. And
Stephanie
so
Brown, right?
this brought me such pleasure watching this. I just
It
imagined it
does
was
look
Stephanie
just like
Brown.
her. It does. I'm telling you. And in that, I don't want to, throw shade, but even then, when you see the one girl going through, looks like what's her name that does the podcast in that. I mean, all of it.
Exactly.
It's like, what's going on here? I will say one thing, and when I was reading this, and I'm going, and I didn't really look at the credits right away, so I'm reading. I thought this has to be Jorge Corona. And I look, okay, it is. I actually think that the art in this is better. That the Batgirls, it seems like they're trying to get him to muddy stuff up all the
Mhm.
time. And it ends up, this actually is a better play. And it actually, I think, plays out a little bit. But I'm telling you, now that you said that, that's it's full out Stephanie Brown. Like she needs Cassandra to come and save her butt because she's there. And I mean, it gets so extreme to the point where she goes into this temple and they say you have to wear a sarong or pants. You can't just go in there. And at one point, she is straight up micro bikini going through here. Like, boy, you're really asking for it. But again, it's like that classic of trying to get the likes and doing these and it doesn't work out. And yeah, she gets turned into a swamp thing. By the end, it looks like it ends up getting taken in by this deal. And at the end, I actually thought that there'd be a play where you would see that there was like 8 million of these. And yet there may be, but it just, at the end, it just kind of happened. And you're not even, even surprised or taken aback, nothing. I had no real reaction except laughing, like, you deserve that one, and just move on with her phone there with the umbrella. And then I did like the ending with, now that's what I call a staycation. And then don't forget to like and subscribe. That made me laugh. But overall, I thought that the second story was not as good. But what would you give this?
I would. I had so much fun with it. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give it an 8, only because I
Okay,
had
I'm
so
going
much fun with it.
7.5. I'm with you. I really did. And I like when the little bit that we talked about it, that hair story. It just makes me laugh at the end where the guy's just like listening to that guy. Eventually, he's going to have to decide something because there's not going to be anybody for him to cut hair anymore in town because everybody's getting killed. But maybe that's the play is they weed out the hunters. I think Big Fluff might come for it. But that second part, boy, I'll tell you, maybe I have to go a little higher because once you said it was Stephanie Brown, then it made me giggle. And then I'm like, all right, that's pretty funny. That's really good. But yeah, overall, I'm going to go 7.5. You're going to go 8. So that's cool, though. And again, it's going to be an uphill battle at points because certain times of the year it doesn't really feel, though this isn't a Halloween book, but since it came out around Halloween, it just has that in my head with the horror stuff. And I'm not a huge horror comic fan, so that would be when I'd read it. But we'll stick with it. We'll keep going until we end up. We can make the rule until we end up not liking both stories. We keep going with it. When we get to that point, then maybe it's time to say goodbye. But right now, I'm telling you. Now I'm going up to 7, 8. I'm not going to go fully up to 8. I'm telling you, I'm looking at it right now, and it's just making me giggle. It's Stephanie Brown. Now, of course, Stephanie Brown fans might be mad at us. I'm more of a Cassandra Cain fan myself, but you end up where Steph gets it. Pretty funny, but we'll move on to the last book, which is Hitomi #2. And it did seem there was a bit of a delay between the 1 and the 2. When we ended up talking about the #1, we really did enjoy it. And just as a disclosure type deal, we actually got HS Talk, who writes it, got a hold of us and actually sent us variant covers of that first issue. And an awesome move. It was really nice for him to do it. You ended up saying at one point, well, if he doesn't want to send it to old Moose Jaw in Canada, you could let him do this. I'm like, I'll let him know. And yeah, he sent it to you. So that was pretty cool.
And I'm glad that you said him. I didn't know if it was a male or a female writer, but I guess HS.
I did look it up,
Okay.
and yeah, I wanted to make sure because that's kind of a different name. So I wanted to make sure with a lot of females on the creative team, which is really cool. So I wanted to make sure, and I did see that. And so yeah, it was a cool deal. And it's an awesome looking cover.
Oh,
I loved it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just for what it's worth, he did say in the message that you forwarded to me that we're free to sell it on eBay, but I'm not selling this on eBay. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I was gonna tell him. I'm like, listen. First off, I wouldn't do that. Second, I'm lazy. I even had. I'm telling you, I go back to the computer I got. I said to the guy when I was getting it. This guy who talked a little too much for my deal. But I said, I don't really need that video card. That was my big play of like, I just need it for the podcast. I'm not playing games. So he's like, well, what you do is you take out the video card, get another video card, put it in, then sell that video card on eBay for half the price. I said, you've already gone like 5 steps beyond anything that my laziness will allow. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to take it home. But yeah, it looks great. And I have it up in my bedroom. I showed my wife and she thought it looked really, really cool as well. Though when I say stuff like that to her, she shakes her head and looks in the distance. She doesn't really know or care what I'm saying. So with that, though, we'll get into Hitomi #2. Chapter 2, Wolf, and it is created and written by H.S. Talk. Art by Isabella Mazzanti. Layouts by Nicoletta B. Colors by Valentina Napolitano. And I tried to look up, I wanted to see if Valentina was a relation to Tom Napolitano, who we have a lot of stuff at DC from, and I couldn't find anything. So I was wondering about that. Letters by Rob Jones. And the book carries on. I still really do like it. I really do like it. I still think that it plays out like a lone wolf and cub type deal, a very manga inspired deal, but also very classic with the idea of this girl protagonist trying to learn and wanting to become a samurai from a disgraced samurai who she thinks killed her parents. That's a crazy twist, but she is very much, focused on becoming better, and even says in this issue, I want to become better than you, talking to Yasuki, who's also known as Midnight because he is a black samurai. And that's the other thing I love about it, because he's a black samurai and it's played out again in this issue. There's no way he can hide. He can't end up, because anybody who comes across him is already going to think, oh, and it's Anuba Naga, you were his commander, weren't you? And he's either got to lie and say no, or tell the truth. But I like that play, but I really do like the intrigue of this girl who has to ask the guy who she thinks is the worst to train her so that she can then kill him maybe by the end. And I thought that was really neat. And she's there almost like this reminder to him of what he should be doing against what he's doing, because he's disgracing himself and the samurai as they go with all the things that he's doing, the things he's not doing, and this really upsets her. But you can tell that he's really had issues where he's got to do what he's got to do. He wants to go home, and so he's going to do whatever. But what did you think?
Well, it's interesting. So you think that he is the one that maybe ended up killing her, or maybe saving her, or was involved, because her parents were killed and she wants to avenge her parents' death.
Yeah.
And it was hinted at in the first issue that perhaps Yasuki did have something to do with that, or maybe he ended up saving Hitomi, and he didn't realize it. I'm not sure, but it's interesting how this is all playing out. I love the blackness of his face. Like he has such a dark face, and they call him he's called Midnight. In
Midnight.
fact, one of the guys that he works with there, he deliberately throws matches. He gets into fights and he makes money, sort of like he fights sumo wrestlers just to make money on the side.
Yeah,
and he seems to deliberately
he travels with the guy, which is crazy. So they're like almost like a snake oil salesman, where you're like, hey, who here wants to try it? And you have your cohort in the audience. I do. Oh my goodness, I feel strong now. And then both of you grab the money and run off. Just like the Say video with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. That's what they were doing in that, and I loved it. So that's what it reminds me of. But
one of the things that gets really magnified in this issue is just how downtrodden Yasuki is. He is very much, he's lost his way. He's lost his faith in the Bushido code. Bushido code. Forgive me if I'm butchering the pronunciation of that. And you can tell he's frustrated with Hitomi. He doesn't want to help her, but she offers him a sword if he helps her. At one point, a villager comes and says, "Look, if you help me, there's a wolf that's killing my sheep. Come kill the wolf." He says, "No, I don't want to do that. I'm too old." She says, "No, I'll do it. I was born, I could kill a wolf in my sleep." She's a cocky young person. She's passionate. She wants to learn, and she's slowly sort of pulling Yasuki into this mentor role that he doesn't want to be in. As he said repeatedly, he doesn't want to be the teacher. He goes, "I'm no more a teacher than you are a student," and he's got a good point, because she's a cocky little thing.
Oh, she is.
And there's some really funny moments in this issue. The rapport between the two of them, the way they take pot shots at each other, and she calls him almost a disgrace, and he at one point Bontero calls her like a nagging fly. She's always hanging around and following them, and it was really I imagine this was very enjoyable. It had a very nice flow. I liked how it flowed from the first issue. The first issue ended somewhat on a cliffhanger because she was she was thrown into a lake.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure exactly what became of
And then it's
that, but
saved by them, it
oh,
seems, and then she
right,
followed them, so that was kind of a cool deal,
yeah.
and she, like you say, Buntaro's like, "Oh, she's just a nagging fly," and I thought that was a really neat play, and what I get and I do like the art a lot, and I like the layouts, I think it's really cool, and just like you said, with Yasuki's face, but then the graying beard to show you that he is a little older, he does seem like he's a beaten down guy, and in my mind this whole samurai stuff, which he starts to get involved with later about how, hey, I came here, I wasn't born a samurai, though he says samurai are born. And then Hitomi
Mm,
says, well, you weren't. And he's like, yeah, a couple are pretty special like me. He just wants to go home. And I think that the samurai stuff is almost the idea of that's here. If I could just get out of here, I could forget about that nonsense and just be myself, whatever. But she's pulling him back in and reminding him what it takes to be that. And I think it's one of those, like, you may find out by the end that he did end up saving her. Like you said, you actually thought maybe that's the case. I don't know if it gets to the end, and I'm just saying from what we get in the second issue, if Yasuki says, "Listen, Nobunaga ended up ordering me to kill you, and I didn't. I saved you." That's why I don't think she'd like that. I think that she would say, "Well, you're supposed to follow the rules." She seems to be really big on the Bushido code. So if it is one of those where he says, "Yeah, I gave everything up, became a Ronin, and I was disgraced because of that," I don't think she's going to end up saying, "Well, that's cool. I'm glad you did that, and I love you because you." No, I think that that would piss her off. She's more of the idea of straight to the code, even to the point where it does seem like what she thinks she's learning to be a samurai from the guy who she wants to kill. It says at one point, "I just want to get as," I love the line. She says, "I just want to get as good as you." Because it seemed to be she's saying, then I can kill you. Then we can fight even, boom, done. And I thought that it was really neat the way that it was played out. And I really like that, like you said, the back and forth. It's very subtle at points. It's not like one of these where everything has to be a wow moment. You can tell that this is about a journey, and the way that it plays out, the pacing is just like that. And there, you said it. One of the best things about it is it's actually pretty funny at parts if you're into the characters and whatnot.
yeah,
Even when they go to find this wolf that they're going to go kill, and you end up where they get this hide of a sheep because the wolf's killing the sheep, whatnot. And then you end up, Tommy goes, "That's not going to fit you. What do you wear?" "No, no, you're wearing it." She's like, "Oh, great. You're so old. You're not going to be able to save me." And he's like, "No, I'm kind of still okay." You almost get, it's very funny. You almost get in this already a lethal weapon, kind of feel between the "I'm too old for this shit" and the
yeah,
crazy. Like, it really
yeah,
feels like a buddy deal in a weird way. Like, it has a lot of those layers to it that I
yeah.
really do like, and nothing is rushed. And maybe at one point, you're gonna have to pick up the pace. But I like that it does something in this that I said manga does a lot, is it's really, really centering on character character moments and relationships and interplay between them, more than just like you could have somebody write this and it could be three spread pages of samurai sword swinging around like that, but that wouldn't fit the deal. Even the little play where they go into that, inn or bar, and these guys are like, "Hey, little girl, you want to come and I'm going to teach you something there." And you're expecting a huge brawl. And so is
Yeah.
Hitomi. And then there's three guys, and they go out, and he's like, "Here's your first lesson. It's math. Three is greater than two. Now let's go." And she's, "That's a disgrace. You shouldn't do that." But he's more of a realist at this point. And I think there was something with, probably combined with Hitomi, the idea of something went wrong, and he realized that what he thought was right ended up not being right, and now he just wants to go
Well,
home.
she
It's that
asks him.
deal.
She
Yeah.
asks him, "Have you lost all your honor?" And he says, "I simply honor intelligence over stupidity."
Yeah.
And it's something it's also something that a coward would say too, to what to back down from a potential fight as well. So, you're left wondering, is he just careful with picking his fights, or has he just lost his way? I'm inclined to think he's really lost his way. I
Yeah.
I'm a lot of the this battle between him sort of slowly, he wants to just go home. This samurai
Yeah.
Yasuki just wants to go home, and wherever home might be, but he needs enough money to do that. and he ultimately agrees that he will continue to train young Hitomi as himself as a Ronin,
Yeah.
and he'll get his money, and then he's hoping that it'll just take a few months for that to occur, or not too long, so that he wants to train her so she's just good enough to care for herself, so she doesn't have
Yeah.
to follow a bunch
So
of other
and he
people
doesn't
around.
have to, and he doesn't have to feel bad leaving her.
Yeah,
And I thought that was cool. And like you said, the idea too, when he says, listen, he doesn't say, okay, well, you have to pay me $1,000 right now. What he says is, we're gonna work. The profits of that I'll get until we pay it off. It's like it's it's not too much then. It's not like she's gonna be in debt. She just is gonna have to help him get that money, and then she'll be good enough at that point to go on her own. And I think that when we get to that, if we do whatever, he's gonna feel, more of a connection to her. I think that she's gonna start liking him even more, even with that idea. And she's on Front Street. I mean, why I really do like this is Atomi herself is so, like you said, she's got sass. She ends up like she's fun. But when she just says, I mean, she really, I think in my mind, she thinks that he's the one who did it. He's like, my mom and dad were killed by that. Like, she's like right out there. She's not pretending. She says it's, wars and stupid thing that cause people. And you end up having Yasuki agree. Yep, that's what happens. A lot of crazy stuff that happened to me as well. And you're starting to get that connection. Like, I don't think that Hitomi ever thought that if she said, my parents were killed by, oh, yeah, it's the same with me. Like, and she almost gets a little mad about it. And I really do like it. And then I said at the end, you do have those quick pages of, okay, then we walk forward in this and you see a couple, but they're not wow moments. It's more training deal, including when they go to like some haunted tree. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And I really like the art in that as well. But I do like this. I do like it a lot. And even when you get everything's solved with like a smart play, like this idea that they go and find that it's a guy taking the sheep, but also killed a boy who went out to try to stop this. And while this guy, when they exposed this and the guy ran away because he had like a wolf's hide on him, and you end up where Yasuki hits him in the back. He's twirling around what I believe is like a stone there, and he throws it and it hits him in the back. And they're arguing of, man, you missed him. No, I didn't. Didn't you hear him yell? No, no, he was laughing. No, he wasn't. I hit him. But when they go back to the guy who hired them for it, he says, listen, get all the men in the village up and going. The person who has a bandage or a bruise on their back, that's who did it. And let the boy's dad, take care of what happened. I really like the way that is played out. It's not like nobody's good, bad, or different to them. They're just doing their job and they're moving on. And that's what they do. And I thought they get the sword, they get the deal, and they move on. And I think that you end up Yasuki realized, you know what, this girl, she has something to her. She's, and they're kind of a good team right away. So this is also him saying, I think in my mind, okay, I can get my money to get out of here. I could actually get my money doing this than, doing fights where Tomi even says, so Tomi's not dumb. She says, the guy who's doing these fights with you, either you're going to wake up one day, he's going to skedaddle, you're not going to get paid, or they're going to kill you. So why don't you help me? And then he finally and when he says, I honor intelligence over it, I think he realizes, you know what, I better practice what I preach and go. I really liked it. But how about you?
Yeah, like I said, this continues the flow from the first issue. This feels like a story that it's heading somewhere. And there's that final page where it seems to show, it hints at what's to come, I think, as well as he stated his intention. I will train you. I will train you as a Ronin, but then I will go my separate ways. I will train you enough to get you where you need to be, good enough to survive on your own. But then I will leave. And then it almost reminds me a little bit of Jeff Johns often does in some of his DC comics. He'll in his final pages, he'll tease the next year of events. And I almost feel like in those 4 panels, we're getting a little bit of teasers of what's to come for Hitomi. And so I'm just really curious to see where this is going to go. I don't know if I don't know if this is a 4-issue series or not, to be honest. But I hope I feel like I want this to be an ongoing series, because I really like it, because I get a sense that Yasuki's plans to go home are gonna he's gonna be changing those plans relatively soon, or in the next few months, anyways. But I enjoyed it. So what'd you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 9.3 is what I'll give it. I really like it. I really do. It really, like I said, I'm a big manga fan. It really goes with that, but it also feels like a classic story. I even said, earlier, Lone Wolf and Cub, that sort of deal. It really feels like that. But even in the newer deal, if you want to go, it feels like, say, the Wolverine movie. It feels like that on the road young pupil being taught, but in the end, I mean, I'm waiting for, and we're already almost getting it. The I thought I was teaching you, but you're teaching me. That is one of my favorite moments and favorite tropes of writing and comics especially. So I think we're already getting that where we're going to see where while Hitomi is learning to be a samurai, you're also having Yasuki realize what's important and what he should do while he just wants to get home. Maybe by the end, there's more important things. There's something he can do better. I also wonder, like, if he just wants to go home, just like he says, well, I just want to go home because that's what I miss. I have a or is it one of those where I just want to go home because I'm dying and want to get there? Like that would end up being something and put a little more tension into it and see what he has to do, whatnot. But yeah, I'm trying to see as we're talking how many issues. I know it's weird. Image doesn't do a lot of ongoings. What you end up, you'll start off, and then you might come back with something, and then eventually, unless it's a big deal, say
Yeah.
like a Walking Dead or something like that. But I hope that this is something that can continue. If it does
Uh,
end and then come back, but I'm gonna go 9.3. What would you give it?
uh, I'm gonna go give it a solid 9. I really liked
Okay.
it, and I want to give a shout out to. We said the art was great. I don't know if we mentioned her by name, but it's Isabella Mazzanti.
Yep.
Mazzanti, fantastic artist. The colors by Valentina Napolitano,
Yep.
excellent. This art is I can't emphasize enough how much the art is necessary. Enhances this story because this pulls me into the period of time. I'm not an expert on
Does.
Japanese samurai history, but I feel that I'm in a different culture. I feel like I'm in a different time period, and that's all because of the art. And not only the environment is the background's great, but the expressions on the characters. There's something about the I guess the Japanese culture, the samurai culture, where often they seem often expressionless,
Hmm.
but yet and so and to be but yet there's also, despite the emotionless faces, we know there's a lot going on in the inside. There's a lot of emotion on these faces here. You can see the angst and the pain and the passion and the on these faces. You can see the sense of tragedy and the quest for almost some kind of. These characters are lost. They're looking for
Yeah.
something, and they think they know what they're looking for. Yasuki thinks he wants to go home, but maybe going home is becoming a teacher to this new student. The student wants to avenge her parents, but maybe what she's looking for is a parent in her own right,
Yeah.
is a parent, and she'll find it in Yasuki. So these are characters that have found each other, but haven't realized that maybe they've already found what they really need. And this is a story that I think just again, I mean it's cliche to say in this day and age, but I would love for this to be a Netflix show. I really would.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think this. I think it has. I can just imagine season 1, season 2. This is many ways. This has the Mandalorian sort of thing, with the master and the
Exactly, that's what I'm
apprentice, right?
saying. It has that classic feel. Even that felt like Lone Wolf and Cub. I mean, a lot of that goes
Yeah.
back for me for that, but even more classic. It feels like it's a story that oh, we didn't know it was adapted from an ancient tale from Japan. Like it really feels that classic, and I really do like it. I can't say enough how much I like it. I'm really glad that we got to talk about it again because I was worried. All of a sudden, the second issue it feels like it was delayed. I'm like, oh man, what's going on? But yeah, even in like one of the insults in this towards Yasuki was, you're even worse and lower than a Ronin. They say at one point when he's walking away from, that whole sumo wrestling deal that they were doing. And I'm like, no, he's walking away because he is a little better than that and wants to get back. And I really do like that. So, yeah, I was impressed and I continue to be impressed by it. So, cool deal. And we'll obviously be doing the third issue when that comes out. And in the meantime, I'll try to figure out how many issues there are because I was just looking while you were talking. I still can't find it. So it's one of those. It's a weird deal. Like Image does play that weird deal of you get your first arc and then they see what's going on. I talked to a couple. I don't know if exactly how it's played out with Hitomi, but I've talked to some other writers who were on books and like, oh man, this is so good. Is it? Well, I don't know. It goes this and stuff like that going on. So we'll have to wait and see. But I really do enjoy it and suggest people pick it up. And you actually got the print copy of it, you said, right? Because you told me you were getting print stuff. I'm just reading it digitally, and I'm sure the print looks even better, the way, because it looks like that art that might really be good on,
Yeah.
paper as well. So
I chose to
I
get
really like it.
Yes, I chose to get the cover with the wolf on it.
Hmm.
I just like the stylistic art, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely beautiful. Although I have to say though, there's the other art, that other cover with the sword with her eye replacing the eye of the wolf.
Okay.
Is
That's
really
really
beautiful
good.
as well. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. But I'm sure I would have got that too, but my retailer never had that cover. But I actually pre-ordered this one because I just like it. It was, I don't know. I like the how do you explain? It's art is one of those things where
Yeah.
sometimes has that certain je ne sais quoi feel. You just got to pick it up. So
Yeah, and I'm looking at I didn't even realize because then they have a at the back end of it, there is a preview for All Against All by Alex Packnadal. But then after that, it's a cool play too because it's next month, and you see a person pulling Hitomi out of a long box, and you see the next issue, and it does point to witches and a cult, and that's a cool twist. I'm glad we might end up getting some spiritual stuff and things like that. So that's really neat. So we'll see how that is when it comes out. But yeah, job well done. And that's it. We're done, Rocky. That is it for the show. We had a little snafu at one point and had to stop recording. So I hope that everything goes smoothly. I'll leave that to you, Rocky, for the
yeah,
smoothness
I'll
of it.
figure that out. And
Yeah, it's just if things seem a little disjointed at a point, and that's more of a technical problem. Like I'm waiting for me, like I'm saying one thing, and then again, it'd be the same thing as always. I can never remember what I said. So all that though, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me on once again, Rocky. Everybody, check out all of the stuff on Rocky's channel here on the Comic Boom channel, and especially the DC stuff that he does with Jace. A lot of cool things, and you have a video up for your thoughts and dreams and hopes of the dawn of DC. I ended up watching that. It was really good. So everybody check all that out. And that's that, right?
yeah, absolutely. And everybody check out Weird Science. The Weird Science DC podcast is my favorite. And you review manga, Marvel, and of course indie comics with me. So join when you join the Weird Science group. You not only get first dibs on all the podcasts, but you get to join the Get Fresh crew. That's what we call ourselves, right? Right.
Well, yeah.
And you get to go in the Slack, and a lot of what I know, because it's so hard to keep tabs on what's happening with just DC alone. That's my love. But Marvel, I get the bonus, the Marvel, the manga, and everything, and everybody. I love the fact that I make mistakes, and and even if I don't want to get corrected, I repeatedly get corrected when I'm on the Slack in a good way. We all love each other there. We talk comics.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, and I encourage anyone. You got like whatever, $1, $2, $5 a month or more. Dedicate to Weird Science. You get more than your money's worth. So I just want to definitely give a shout out for that.
Well, thank you. And that's that. So you take us out, Rocky.
All right, say Comic Boom and Weird Science out.